of the consular venue, diversity of nationality, in relationship to treaties and constitutions, etc., in order to hold these people who are pretending to be government to the obligations of the positions that they're claiming, etc. And in the process, it exposes the whole paradigm. And in the process, it makes people actually more conscious, and at the same time gives people exercises needed to start being jurisconsults, etc., which is a state of mind politically that we need to be in that state of mind operatively anyway.
Okay.
And this is also why people who have been less than honorable among our own and others have been staunch criticizers of the restoration of constitutional principles, i.e., diversity of nationality, consular court. And even some of them saying it never existed, which they're lying. And I suggest many of you read Article 3, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States, coming from Muslim law, as Obama talked about, and the enforcement of treaty law. Because that is the venue that has been neglected when you're talking about legitimate courts. So the only ones who are legitimately operating are people who are exercising or entertaining treaty and constitution enforcement. So Noble Drew said to the Moors when he established the old Canaanite temple in 1913, he says, "Help me in my great missionary work to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution for the United States of America." And what he know, as soon as you did some research, you would see that they had modified and altered it and have a private operation, or what they call a second constitution of the United States, which is the fraud and the de facto. But he said to you also that the half has not been told. If I told you everything, you go back to sleep. But once you find out the fraud, those who are sincere will be honorable enough to restore and activate the existing legitimate courts. And logically, that would be the jurisdiction of the Moorish nation, etc. And he says, where is the Moorish Empire? Northwest of Mexico. There you go, when you question that.
If you all are having problem with the link as I put it up, I just put it up, just text 827 to 302-345-0500, and I'll send you the link if you want to get a ticket for our close and personal. We have about 40 some tickets remaining, so you want to do that sooner than later. Let me see.
And keep in mind, remember we talked to Dr. Naila, and we talked actually, in the area of 7 years back on up, when we was mentioning it every once in a while, when the people start doing trusts, etc., or even going in that direction, it would kill the bonds, it would kill the straw man that everybody keeps trying to capture, which they will never allow you to do. But what it does, it kills the bond system. And so it doesn't matter how many straw instruments they start creating, they can't sell them because nations are not buying them. That's how you capture the straw man, you choke it.
And all you have to do is go into these stores, and these especially even these big box stores and so forth, and see how they are tied to this overarching corporation, because everybody is moving stuff around to make it look like they still have stock and so forth, when everything is being depleted and not restocked because they can't get it.
As an example, we had a conversation a week or so ago or more, and with problems that we had with finance that you put out in lot. And what did I say to you? I said, they're not going to tell you, but they have a supply issue. What did they tell you when you went there?
They're having an issue with supply.
Because I already knew what was happening. And I've been telling people for the last few years that they're going to stop buying U.S. Treasury bonds and stop accepting the private commercial paper of the Jesuit order, which you've been calling the Federal Reserve note, which is not money. Therefore, they're going to have supply issues all around the planet. What's going on right now is Mr. T is negotiating, because remember, they're defunct. They have defaulted on all of those bonds that we've been telling you for the last 7 years was going to happen. And so all of them are going to have supply issues. And so again, this goes again why they want to do the V thing, to put the people to sleep and control their minds and then kill off some of these people, because they already know that they've been putting people who have what you call Social Security age, and people, and I've been telling you all for 15 years, 401ks are going to be 409ks. I've been telling you for years. Well, guess what? There are 409ks in all of the orders. That's the fact. The deal of it is, a lot of the stuff that they're doing now is to cover up the fact that all of the institutions have failed. They have collapsed. And so they're keeping the people preoccupied with fear, and one V after another V, or another V after another V, and another version of the V after the other V, to cover up the fact so that you don't go to these people that you've been calling your priests and your politicians and physically choke them for what they have actually done. They're diverting your attention off of themselves. That's the real truth. And they were putting people in nursing homes to kill them off so that they would not have to meet the obligations of their both pensions and retirements, which they're obligated to because they've stolen it all already. And guess what? The Grays didn't do that. These people that you've been calling congressmen and congresswomen have done this to you. And they're not your congressmen and they're not your congresswomen. They are private board of director operatives for the Jesuit order and members of the Roman Curia and members of the Circle Church and Chancery, which we've been telling you for years. And all of these attacks are diversions so that you don't look at who the real problem has been and is and are. And backed up by people you've been calling preachers and pastors. And all of them been doing human trafficking. Don't you ever think it hasn't been that. And when you find out some more stuff, and you're going to find out shortly, most of them people are going to go in hiding. Even some of the ones that you trusted.
Here's a question from Turtle Hustle. There has been several spiritual masters from the East who have been coming to America since the late 1800s, but they teach more hybrid Europeans than Moors in America. Why is that?
Keep in mind, the Moors in America have been the farthest away from their law and culture. And we have, not that they haven't come to us, but we have been rejecting it, following after idol gods of Rome that we knew nothing of. It's not that they haven't come to you, you haven't listened.
Okay, let me see.
In other words, you've been hard-hearted and rebellious, and you are the direct heirs. And you've been claiming names and principles that delude to forced servitude and connotative slavery, and then wanting to charge the world with it. Well, guess what? When you dishonor your mothers and your fathers, in law, all over the planet, you have no right of inheritance.
Here's a question.
That's a choice. And you can't say that men didn't come here and tell these people that they're not Negro, Black, or colored, because that is the fact, the case. As a matter of fact, the only organization that was set up actually in contemporary times to address that absolutely directly is the Moorish Divine and National Movement. And look how much negative misrepresentation has been hoisted upon Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, which was put in place to actually directly address that issue. So it's not that they haven't come, many have not listened. So by your free will, you get what you reap. You're reaping what you've been sowing. So don't feel sorry for it. That's why over the years, Dr. Nayola, you hear me always say, when people come to this information, don't start playing victim and don't start feeling sorry for yourselves, because we're not innocent in this.
That's true. I was trying to find this question to put it up. I know it was Jasmine Miller. I saw it. But the question was whether or not, because she's in the UK, whether or not they can buy a ticket for the 27th and log in. Unfortunately, like the revolution, this is not going to be televised. We call this up close and personal because we feel that this is an opportunity for us to be completely open and honest and in an environment
without interference,
or without, because we know when we're on this kind of a platform, we're speaking to everybody and anybody. And you can put any picture up that looks like you're a Moor. So this is actually not going to be televised, although it will be recorded. We will determine how we want to make and if we're going to make it available to those who were not able to come in person, but it will not be live streamed, unfortunately. So just to answer anyone else's question besides Jasmine's. Let me see. Any more questions? Questions. There was a question about you addressing the door to. I think you did mention it. The door-to-door V campaign. You have kind of mentioned it.
Those are members of the Roman Curia, some of which are not necessarily just on that side of Curia operations. Some of them were actually replaced there to actually as what you call double agents to actually undermine the operations of the dark priesthood and the synagogue of Satan, which is absolutely entrenched in what is known as the Democratic Party, also in the fake Republican Party known as Rhinos. So keep in mind, you actually observe, because you have many of them who are sleepers are actually on both sides. So this again, why you have to be spiritually astute and pay attention, and don't necessarily take sides, but observe, because this all this much of what's going on now is for your observation. It's for heavy learning, because as we said a couple of years ago, things are going to be accelerating so fast that most of the people, when they start recognizing what's really been going on, if they don't have a strong constitution, they will actually crack up. And that's not an understatement. And that's true. Things will be exposed to you that are very so traumatic and so ugly that one of the things that many of us have to do is learn to succor each other or to help each other to handle what's coming forth. So it's not just the surface politics as you see it. Keep in mind there's uglier, larger, what you might call clock of destiny going on by measurement, cycle measurement that most of us aren't used to dealing with. Some people who are adeptus at this know that placement, cycle placement, are looking at from another dimensional perspective, that until people get to a certain level of comprehension, that it would almost be not a waste of time to tell them, but actually it would be a distraction. So what we try to do is get people to start respecting their intuitive mind so that some more things can be said. However, we're already not coming to, but we're already at a point of exposure that a lot of people will not be able to handle the information that you're going to be smashed with. And I say that just like that, smashed with.
Yeah, it's ugly. A lot of it's ugly.
Not, you know, when I wrote that poem in Moors Defined, lesson book number 1, and I talk about the God sellers, the God sellers are going to be in trouble. Because you're going to find a lot of people that have been running around talking about gods are actually the absolute opposite. And so when you're talking about the board of directors, and this is fact that people need to know, that from a specific and documented position, the persons who you're calling the Congress and the Senate for the United States are all, bar none, members of the Roman Curia and are on the board of directors for the Rothschild, which means red shield, and that's just the front, because that even not even who it is. And the operations for the synagogue of Satan, who have been ruling Midgard for quite some this last millennia. Let's put it that way. And the anthropomorphic perception that you know as Jesus, look at it anthropomorphically, has already been on the path of restoration of that which is correct and right. Whether you use the name Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc., you're really talking about an energy spirit that is really the same. That energy has already been here and is already operating now on another level, dimensional level, to defeat the dark priesthood. And so your politics is a lower level reflection of that. Know that that is the truth.
I'm gonna we're almost some of the things that some people are interested in are things that are going to be addressed over on my new channel, because everybody doesn't want to hear about the metaphysical or the galactic and all that, even though we all need to know, because it's going to be more and more apparent as time goes by in the very, very near future.
You're not even going to.
They're going to need to know.
You're not even going
to be on you.
Put it this way: you're not even going to be going into maybe what you might call another. You know how people looking at 222, 223. You won't get past that before much of what we've been telling you for years will be smashing you in your face.
Well,
so it's sort of like it's things will be accelerating and happening and taking place so fast. Some things have been slowed down only in the nature of having compassion for humanity, not necessarily to hide things from you, but actually to protect your mental. Because one of the things that some who are trying to do good are trying to protect your consciousness, which is under attack. Because your consciousness, if it goes negative, you'll start manifesting for the dark priesthood, which we've been doing with our adopted belief systems, thinking that we were helping that which is divine, which has much to do with the condition that exists here at Midgard, which we're trying to help reverse.
So I want you to subscribe, go to YouTube and put in a search, Dr. G is official. Now it's going to pop up Darius is official. No, you want Dr. G is official. I only need, there's like over 1,000 of you on here right now. I only need 140 more subscribers to get to 1,000. And I appreciate that, because I haven't even put any live content on there. So 800 and whatever, 60 of you have already subscribed. 140 of you, 1,083 that I see right now, can go over to YouTube, to Dr. G is official, and subscribe, so that those of you who want the esoteric information will be able to get that, apart from this channel, which is more concerned with more science and so forth. But direct civics, but metaphysics, the esoteric is more science. You need to know that.
It is.
It's very important that you know that. It's very important that you get back to your divine self, your divine mind, your divine abilities, because a lot of the things that you are bellyaching about and wanting somebody else to do, you wouldn't have to have that type of experience, because you'd be able to manifest the outcomes yourself.
Physician, heal thyself.
So go over there, 140 of you.
Remember, we're promoting responsibility.
So,
we're not promoting followership. We're promoting self-responsibility.
Here's a question here, and I thought this was where did it go? Somebody asked if, and forgive me if I didn't actually pull up your question, but I remember what it was. They asked if the here it is. DJ, come to pull it up. Is the IRS still operating? I still haven't gotten my refund, and I filed it on March 15th. That is ridiculous. Somebody else told me the same thing today.
The IRS is being dismantled, and by technical legal process is non-operative. However, some of the paid agents within that program operations of the Roman Curia have been moved to the Treasury Department for the United States, and this is to repurpose some of their activities, and some of them are being removed altogether on multiple levels. And the real deal of it is some of the fines in violation that have taken place apply to those who, and many who have been violating human rights and international law. Their resources are being confiscated to refund operations of a appearance of legitimate government operating under constitutional principles, i.e., and that platform is what Mr. T represents. Whether or not those manifests will come to be is for you to see. However, that is part of the battle that's going on in the background. So to put it in just straightforward to you, the IRS is being dissolved.
Hi. Yeah, yeah, good.
And if some of you will notice that many of you have probably been notified that your credit cards aren't working, which I told you 7 or 8 years ago would start happening.
Yeah, they're shutting down a lot.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet. They've been trying to hide it, but it's like everything is breaking. Every institutional platform is breaking. And this is again why they've been so hostile to anyone who exposes truth, because the deal of it is they don't want you to look at them, because a lot of the people you've been calling government is really your demons. And they ain't gray either.
And if you think that person, that Mr. B, is the same Mr. B that was at my graduation 40-some years ago, that's not him. Trust and believe.
Without going into it really deep, you got projections, you got clones, you got CGI, etc.
We watched today some news on YouTube, and the people, I guess it was from a few days ago, but the correspondent said over to these two individuals who were in Washington, supposedly in DC, in the DC area, for I think there was the lawyer was being arraigned or something. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And it was obvious. They had a video playing in the background, and they were green screened. I mean, everything that we see
CGI
is like a big psyop movie that's being projected in front of us as real. And I don't know how many people are falling for this stuff now. I mean, you could just tell now things that we took for granted were real in the past. Now it's like the eyes of our understanding being enlightened.
If you notice that that all around the world in different nation, state territories, you're having massive flooding and storms that are not harmonic with the seasons. Those are diversions too.
Yeah, so much.
But again, remember we told you years ago, we said, time's going to come, you're going to be putting those credit cards in the machines, and the machine going to go burp. Well, it's happening already, and you will see it accelerating. For those of you who doubt what I say, start doing some research on Wells Fargo and that other HBC game, and you're going to start happening at Chase, and then it's going to start accelerating. So we told you years ago to take your fiat out of them banks.
Get you some
Don't keep
silver.
any more in there than you need to keep those accounts operating while transition is being made. Because what they're going to do, they're going to bail in to save themselves, and they will sacrifice you to do so. This is again why we've been telling you for years to start getting silver. Now, not that, because that's the money. Not that you wouldn't get gold. It's just that when you get gold, you're not going to be transferring your everyday affairs in gold. That would be your backup. Not only that, the silver is going to jump far higher than you could ever imagine.
And you're going to be able to get some gold with a few pieces of silver.
Yeah. Keep in mind, Silver has more industrial uses and also medical uses than gold does.
Absolutely.
But keep in mind what we've been telling you for years, cosmologically, gold is the alchemical metal for the sun. Copper is the alchemical metal for Venus. Silver is the alchemical metal for the moon. And so the moon economy on the earth controlling the blood flow and the movement of the waters is where you get moon or eco in agriculture from in its dynamics. And so that is the money. And therefore, in the constitution of the principles of the Asiatic nation, gold and silver coin is the only thing that's used universally as a general rule in contractual agreement for the satisfying of debts. So it cannot be paid without gold or silver coin until such time, and this is after thousands and thousands and thousands of years that we have changed that process, and we have not changed that constitution of operations on Midgard. And therefore, they give you something else and tell you it's money. They're lying to you. Therefore, credit is not money. Federal Reserve notes are not money. And you've not been allowed to handle money for years. Keep that in mind, not to divert you from the subject matters that we're talking about at the moment.
Mercy and Freeman, your question about what's meant by a gray, I think somebody else responded, but yes, grays are ETs or alien beings.
Not new.
Nope, been around. Some say that they're not even biological.
That's a loose name. You got that right. Some of them, yes, a few of them are.
Some are.
A lot of them are actually biological robots.
Right. That's what I mean.
You got that right. Many of them are simply, they don't have what the soul that you talk about. They take orders. You might call it biological AI with some of them. But again, like I said before, I don't divert people to that because many people aren't what you would call in the frame of mind to handle that. And we have a tendency to keep getting diverted from things that you need to address in front of you. You know, it's sort of like you've heard me always say, why have a discussion with people what's on the dark side of the moon when they can't get across town without getting profiled? So I more or less try to deal with mundane things, down to earth things that help people take responsibility to solve a lot of our problems here in Midgard, so you can prepare for other things. It's sort of like the principle of how dare you claim the love of God you do not see, and love not your brothers and sisters whom you see by the day. Again, my position has always been, why discuss the dark side of the moon when we don't even know the principles of this firmament that we know as Midgard or Earth, when most people don't even know that this particular Earth is Midgard. So why are we going to discuss things that are beyond us? My issue is, let's start solving some of the problems before us, meaning that let's start eating the plate of dinner that's before us before we start arguing about dessert. Not that dessert is not relevant.
I see a couple of, as we get ready to, I'm not going to miss this opportunity to, particularly since I know this is real. There's several questions, or a couple of questions, not several. Turtle Hustle says, how does stacking gold and silver protect us during this economic meltdown?
It does.
That
concept is also misrepresentative.
Right. And somebody else said it was hard to get silver here. I don't know where here is.
Of course it is.
I'm running at the bottom of the page. If you are in the U.S., if you're in the UK jurisdiction, some of these, you can get the silver for as little as 35 notes an ounce, a coin per coin.
And remember, a few months ago it was what, 23?
23. I was so glad that I got 100 plus 200 ounces at 23. That went up $11 an ounce. So if you see that, www.getpaidmore.com. Go visit that site. You can get silver as a preferred customer, or you can get silver as a wealth ambassador and get paid.
And keep this in mind. The reason why we suggest it, because we already know that the dark priesthood is attacking the people. Because remember, part of their attack is economic. And so the deal of it is, because you're going to have, they'll call them blackouts, whether they're dealing with the institutions that you become dependent on, whether it's talking about electrical, whether it's talking about movement on the roads, whether it's talking about the institutions that you become dependent on, all of them can be called blackout when they either collapse or they interrupt what you call free flow or fungibility of things in order to cause injury on the people. And in a state of emergency, you can spend silver and gold all around the world, whereas the fiat currencies will be no different than the wrappers from a discarded piece of candy that's thrown in the gutter. They will not work. This is why we tell you, it's not to save you, it's to give you some sense of trade opportunities under emergency causes, emergency times. This is why those who know always carries in their pocket a silver coin. All around the world, those who know what's going on for states of emergency. And so we're encouraging you to get in that state of mind to take responsibility.
Do it now. I mean, I've been hearing you talk about silver for at least 9-10 years that I've known you, and it wasn't until last year that opportunity presented itself, and I have over 400 ounces now.
Every, like over the years, whenever, even if I pull in my pocket every once in a while, 40 years, I'd pull out silver or gold coin and show it to people, to show them what others who know what's going on do as a trained habit for states of emergency. These people keep trusting in these Roman institutions that are collapsing. And in an emergency, you can be out of town or something. That'll get you home. That'll feed you when nothing else will. That's not conjecture. That's fact. Anywhere on the planet.
Okay. Anybody that's still asking about a flash drive, go back and look at the video. You'll see this video. You'll see underneath it says to text USB to 302-345-0500. Look at that. I will send you the link. They'll take you directly to purchase a flash drive, whether you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., if you're in Germany and UK
jurisdiction,
and
I always say German or U.S.
Germany, if you're in,
not a place.
Okay, well, if you're in Germany, UK,
jurisdictions,
and Canaan land jurisdictions, say that, because I will send you a different link than if you're in the U.S. jurisdiction. That's all I'm saying. We have two different links, so because it costs a bit more to send it to those places. So if you are in any of those places, or if you're in somewhere else, let me know so I can find out what it costs to get it to you. You'll have to give me an address, and then if if you're in Swaziland or something, I need to know so I can check the address.
And for those who don't comprehend why we keep making that correction, because politically, if you say you're in the U.S., that means they have jurisdiction over your state. It's not a place to go. It's not a country to be reached. It's a political jurisdiction, not a geographical location. Keep that in mind. And they will use that against you every time that you state it. Keep that in mind. That's why you see me making those corrections. Not being disagreeable. It's correcting you. You need to know that you're under attack. And the enemy's not without, the enemy is within.
Yes.
The enemy is in the gates already.
They have a thing called the enemy at the gate.
Not at the gate, they're in.
In the gate.
They're in the house.
And if you need the link, I just put this in the chat. If you can't find the Dr. Gia's official channel, everything goes to 302-345-0500, but just text channel. I will send you the link, and you can click on the link and subscribe. So if you're looking for my channel, text channel. If you're looking for a USB drive, text USB drive. If you want to get a ticket for August 27th, text 827. You will get the proper link. And if you're from another jurisdiction other than the U.S. jurisdiction, let me know so I know what to send you. Now, we are at our end of this particular. We were only going to be on it till 8:30 because of Grand Sheik's commitment at 9. And I'm going to give you a minute or a breather in between. I want to thank each and every one of you. We do for tuning in and for your support. All the love I see in the chat, I'm not going to go over what happened earlier. That was painful, but it had to happen, and we need to have a place where we can all, we may not all agree, but we can be in harmony at the same time, even in our not agreeing. So I thank you all for
even in our schisms,
right.
But recognize the schism.
Yes.
Don't
absolutely.
ignore them. Take responsibility.
Yes. So, and August 27th is going to be amazing. We're going to have all kinds of little things that you are going to want to be a part of on that day. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to being able to be, as we say, up close and personal. And I think you will appreciate that day and the information that you'll be able to glean from it. Again, it will not be televised. It will not be live streamed. And we're not sure if it will even be released, but we will be able to tell you things that you can definitely share with your loved ones and those that you're in association with, and hopefully give you things that you'll be able to take back with you that will assist you further in uplifting fallen humanity. Gershi?
Yeah, so thank you all for spending this time with us this evening, and trust that we helped or encourage many of you to take a strong and deliberated stand in helping the great missionary work of uplifting fallen humanity. Please subscribe to Dr. G's new YouTube channel. Dr. G is official. YouTube requires 1,000, number 12, which many of you who have the old newspaper, the Alma Rock and Star, you'll see the cover of the superliminal on the back of the newspapers. And you see old Moorish lantern, essence of sage, and that's the cover of the superliminal. But anyway, I want to share with the Intuit line because many of the social political activities that are taking place now at Midgard to continue on the part of some of the hybrid Europeans to in their continued attack against Asia and Africa and the descendants of the ancient Lemurians, Moors, Hittites, Canaanites, etc., and also with many of the conflicting aspects of the culling practices of the Inquisition and the misrepresentations in government, the de facto operations on multiple levels of human existence, the constructed fictions created for stealing birthrights, and also the suppression of our people on multiple levels and the designed miseducation of our people, particularly in the West or the Maghreb, accentuated by the operatives and the founders of the General Education Board of 1902, set forth by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates, which I'm sure you're familiar with that name, Gates, and the foundation behind human destruction coming from the operatives who still operate that foundation. And so I wanted to share some aspects of the respect and reclaiming of your intuitive mind and some aspects of philosophy and knowledge about it, and why also take in consideration why many people don't talk about it. Or people who do know about it, and particularly the priesthood and people in government, why they don't talk about it. So we're sharing some aspects with.
Before you go any further, Grand Sheik, I want to just request that those of you who are on the chat right now, if you would share on your social media pages and so forth that we are on tonight, because some people did not get the memo that we're not going to be on tomorrow. So if you could share that we're on live right now, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, so here is, we'll share some notes that I could glean and some supportive aspects. So this would be a brief on the nature of the Moore's Order of the Round Table, lesson number 12, the superliminal. respect the intuit mind. In the ongoing quest by some among us working for human liberation and for self-sought ascension, reflection may serve us well, and we may find ourselves upon honest observation buried within the myriad of the twisted dynamics of pseudo-religious dogmatism. This is more often than not conjoined with social political distortions. And while these social solace dogma paradigms of vague and worshipful energy placements are satisfactory for some souls, such artifice chainings are into its sense to be neglectfully restricting and growth retarding for others. And so to assist those who are sympathetic for truth, we choose at this juncture to consider some of the elements related to the intuit mind. For purposes of cognate-directed considerations, we share some denotative meanings and related synonyms of and for the words intuit and intuition. Intuit. Intuit is a transitive verb and in its operative sense means to know intuitively. In closer inspection of the intuit characteristics, we share the denotative meaning of intuition. Intuition. Intuition is a noun and is etymon derived from the Moorish Latin word intuitus, and it means to express or expresses as a look at and or looking at. Intuitive or intuition relates to the ability or the capacity to comprehend or to see something immediately and to grasp and comprehend the nature of, the intent of, or meaning of a thing. And intuition relates to the mind's extrasensory perception as applied to and of things, of beings, or of situations, etc. Intuition is associated to the acts or the faculty of knowing and or sensing, absent of and without the conjoining of reasoning or the usages of rational processes. Consider the nature of the mind in comprehending, knowing or no being, and akin to the cognate, quote unquote, I am, in relationship to the divine mind of the higher self, and less burdened with the constrictions imposed by dogmatic belief systems or political suppressions as socially imposed upon humanity through the ages. And for the most part, these said constrictions were formulated by a narcissistic and selfish group of priests and de facto rulers, most commonly referenced as, quote unquote, the bishopric, as associated with Rome. Reverting back to the word intuition, also consider a sense of something not materially immediate or cognate supports, or evident or deducible, and more in the nature of impression. Those among us who have arrived at or who demonstrate a less constricted approach to and an operative approach to the respect for the intuit or the intuitive mind are often referred to as intuits. Intuition. Synonyms of intuition are divination, clairvoyance, intuitiveness, seership, sixth sense, instinct, and the like, etc. And for purposes of lesson number 12, the superliminal, we present these for your consideration. A, the conscious mind. B, the subconscious mind. C, the supraconscious mind. In consideration of the conscious mind, we relate to the capacity of, the power of, and or the faculty of knowing one's own thoughts, of one's own mental operations, and of the knowing that man, the species hominidae, is a conscious being, capable of retrieving memory or without the extraneous information, etc., as not being conscious of the fact, etc. In consideration of the subconscious mind, we relate to that aspect of mind, whereas one is deemed not wholly conscious or operatively not conscious or partially conscious. In consideration of the supra-conscious mind, we relate to that aspect of the mind, whereas one is noted as being mentally highly cognitive, etc. Supra relates to that which above is above, over, greater than, superior to, over, superior to, beyond, and transcending. In relationship to lesson number 12, the supraliminal, we address some of the aspects of being or seeking to be above the limiting threshold of mere consciousness and or sensation, and more toward the higher mind or higher self, cognition, and the capacities associated with it, conjoined with the capacities to more stabilize the seeing or knowing achieved. A supraliminal purpose notation for lesson number 12. This aspect of the supraliminal, lesson number 12, is deemed as a counter invocation of God, acronym GOD, God or government order of divinity, as distinguished from God, the acronym government ordinance departments, as constructed via organized corporate civic orders of governments, as founded upon the three-dimensional planes of existence, both positive and negative. And thus we are distinguishing the divine or incorporeal and ethereal aspects of the corporeal aspects of our operative existence at Midgard Earth. Questions? And so a noted aspect of active supraliminal mind. So we look at and consider this. There are three aspects of brain in incorporeal form and expressed in the corporeal physical body of man. The first aspect of the brain is via the physical brain organ located in the head. The second aspect of the operative brain is located in the physical heart of man. The third aspect of the operative brain is located in the physical stomach and gut of man. The brain is noted as the organic portion and part of the physical man that includes vertebrate central nervous system, which is enclosed within the cranium and is continuous with the spinal cord and composed of gray matter and white matter. The brain controls many bodily activities and is known as the seat of consciousness, of memory, and of emotions. The brain is noted for its intellectual abilities, intellectual powers of mind, and of intelligence. An important aspect of divine being is to know that the three brains, the cranial, the heart, and the stomach gut, are electrically and incorporeally connected. Now the questions. Why is it, with this being known factors about the human, why is it that the priesthood doesn't go into this as a lesson of everyday traditional custom and teaching or philosophy? And why is it when the priesthood or politicians or people in rulership suppress the knowledge of this, of the three brains and their connections in relationship to the masses in general? Well, my statement is this. The major reason is because they have misrepresented spirituality. They have deliberately misrepresented religion. They have deliberately misrepresented the true principles of honorable government, etc., for the purposes of enslaving humanity, and have artificially suppressed these aspects of knowledge relative to people knowing themselves in order that people would submit to things that are contrary to their best interest in both the spiritual and the physical aspects of life, period. That is a fact. And by people not being aware of the connection of the three brains, in fact, are less apt to resist or to reject misrepresentations of life, forms of life, their connections to each other, the fields, the electrical fields, and the incorporeal energy fields that connect us all, and thereby less apt to ascend to activating them and liberating ourselves from the dark priesthood who have been operating on or at Midgard for quite some time. And also with the knowing that the time would come relative to the cosmos, sometimes symbolized by the crescent and the star, that humanity would evolve even and in spite of artificial impressions or suppressions, and that we would go to higher planes of life, sometimes referred to as higher dimensions, and we would break free of the artificial bindings that have been put on humanity and at Midgard that's been operative for quite some time. And so due to also to the fact, the reality fact, the cosmic fact, that this energy, transition of energy, is already arriving on Earth, you will see a lot of things taking place relative to the de facto governing powers and the priesthood exercising more de facto powers to suppress humanity on multiple levels. However, in spite of all their activities, their institutions, which were created in the third dimensional planes, have limited or no effectual powers to continue in their existence in the degrees or the energies of the ascending, what you would call energies or dimensions or planes, etc. So at this time, we're experiencing a lot of the chaos that is going on for all institutions that were created or founded in the third dimensional energy, or what you call the Piscean age of I believe, are being dismantled purposely and also by the forces of nature. So it's unavoidable. And so we're sharing some of the superliminal to help all of us along to start being cooperative with each other in the necessity of instituting and activating love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice functionally, and not just by verbal claim. And so the questions arise. What are some of them?
You mean in the chat? Let me see if anybody's asking anything. I'm pretty sure they're just listening. We're looking for questions with regard to what Grand Sheik just shared. But let me just add, you know, I know you were talking about the three brains, and I was kind of like in two places at the same time. But I do know we have, you know, the brain, the one in our head, the one in our heart, the one in our gut.
That's the one you refer to most often.
Right, the one in our heart and the one in our gut. And a lot of times people say, I have a gut feeling. We talk about intuition.
Because that is the intuitive mind.
Right.
People know it and they don't know it at the same time.
Absolutely.
Meaning that it's rarely emphasized. Even though people, you know how this is where, so now you're dealing with consciousness, right? They know it, yet they're not cognizant. So that means that they're staying in the level of the subconscious mind, the chamber, the lower chambers.
Right.
And so when you're looking at even what you call circle 7, so you look at the circle of the head, right? You got 7 orifices, 2 orifices, the ears, 2 nostrils, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth.
Right.
There's 7 in that circle.
The
senses, name the senses.
Taste, touch.
They call them the 5, don't they?
Yeah.
Continue.
Smell,
hearing,
auditory, and what else is there? Taste, we touch, we see, sight.
Yep. Sight. All right, so now, when you start considering what they all represent, Some are referenced as physical, but their actions are actually abstract. As an example, the sight here is an electrical reflection from the outside in, coming back like a cone that goes to the brain. The brain deciphers it and draws a picture. Therefore, this is why symbolism is used to speak to the brain from ancient time to present.
Absolutely, because sometimes some things like words might change or so forth, but symbols are more universal.
And this is also why many ancient symbols of Africa, Ikukta, and the Yucatan, are misrepresented by the priesthood as being negative so that you would reject them and not liberate yourself from them. Yet they use them to empower themselves over the masses.
For instance, and we brought this up, I think I brought this up before in talking to, just giving some commentary to what you're saying. Traditionally, the symbol of the eagle.
Yes.
So
Aquila.
Okay. But the eagle has been given sort of was the majestic animal. We're not going to negate the beauty and majesty of the eagle, but the symbolism universally for the eagle is war, control, government, and then by contrast, the serpent has been given the negative when it's really that's knowledge, wisdom. That's that kind of
Now, yes, continue. Keep on. Whatever you feel, speak. Go ahead.
No, I'm just
put it out. No, put it out there because don't hold anything back.
So so those things symbolically, I was looking at a show that actually was breaking down various hieroglyphic symbols that we see. So, for instance, many people have seen, and I know we're getting off subject a little bit, but many of us have seen the pictures of the hieroglyphs, and then you'll see sometimes it looks like they'll say, well, that's the Anunnaki, and they had bird heads, and they had human bodies and animal heads. The heads apparently always depict sort of like where that being who actually would be a human in this, if you will, in its appearance. Really, the head was symbolic of the mentality or the might or whatever the mission was. So when you saw an eagle or what looked like a bird, you see the ibis or whatever, you see the bird head, that was sort of like the eagle. So that was more governmental. When you see this, like I said, in the serpent, that was one that was giving knowledge. When you see them holding what looks like a pocketbook, and you see a lot of these things and they're holding like something with a handle, that would have been like let me go back, the pine cones. You see some look like they're passing a pine cone. Well, the pine cone you see symbolic, and the Vatican uses it.
Those would be lessons.
Well, that's knowledge being passed on. And then the pocketbook or the whatever the purse it looked like would be like a tools. I'm giving you the knowledge to do it. Now here are the tools to do it. So they would be passing on knowledge and information, and there needed to be the balance. You needed the eagle.
Something is the pocketbook is also referenced as the bag of tricks, and it's also the bag of keys.
But because it was like there's always a balance, and so you did need both the eagle, which is government, and the serpent, which is knowledge, because apparently a lot of the ancient civilizations evolved so highly using just knowledge that when the negative I'm going to call it egalitarian type energies came in, they were able to overthrow them because they were warlike, and the other ones were using they were using their head, they were using their intuition and all these things.
Let's put it this way: one of the keys of the conquest of the ancient world are two. Just put two, because everything, positive and negative, is the ancient ones of our forefathers, i.e., violating some of our own principles, and the hybrid or Germanic tribes overthrowing a peaceful people. As you see, war, or what you would call the respect for life, is a part and has always been a part of African Asiatic culture. And whereas in the nature of general operations, one of the principles of civilization is the keeping of your word, or the honor, the moral integrity of structure and of agreement, or what you call contract. One of the keys to the operative construction of de facto operations at Midgard has been those who chose to take the exact opposite and be what you call bloodletters or bloodshedders, coming as men of peace, but actually deceiving and practicing war. So you have two different characters of operations in nature. That is not to misrepresent or to say that those of our ancient mothers and fathers did not do what you call less than honorable things. So you understand. But the nature of the civilization principles of the ancient Lemurians, Canaanites, Moabites, based on the operations of cosmic order and the observations and maintenance of the divine laws of nature as a construct and the order of government, knowing that via that preservation of those principles, you have longevity in civilization. Absolutely, you have what you call karmic collapse, or you would say the principle of reaping what you sow is often referred to as cause and effect, destruction. Much of what you see now, but again, this is again why sometimes when we're going over the problems of humanity at Midgard, particularly in these days, in your more contemporary times, we will remind the people to recognize some of the symbolisms that are in their native original Edamon nature of operation. As an example, Hela, or the eagle, it does mean ruler or overseer because it actually symbolizes spirituality, because the Hela can look into the sun. Because remember, the nature and the culture and customs of the ancient Canaanite Moabite nation is what you would call the eye, or the people of the eye. And that is the seven senses. So when you deal with the five senses, you also have intuition and insight. Now, when they are conjoined as one, then you get the eye, what they call the eye of Horus, or the one seeing, or the all-seeing eye. Now, when or the divine eye of providence. After the Napoleonic Wars and the captive of the last of the Moabite folks, because originally the Vatican is actually originally African. People don't know that history because that's written out. It's particularly since 1863. And so you have Roma and you have Rome.
Give us a difference.
All right, Roma is pre Napoleon. Rome, that's Roma, and Roma, pre-Napoleon. Rome, post-Napoleon. And this is where, like, when those who are more honest about history will tell the truth as to why they use Napoleon as you might say, as a reference point. But you understand that these are Roman armies in general. Went around the world.